Hey everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the full moon in Sagittarius, which is the full flower moon. And that is a term that comes from the Algonquin indigenous people. And it's interesting because I was born in Chicago and there's actually in Algonquin, Illinois. So I assumed they were from Illinois, but actually, one of the states they were from is Wisconsin, and now supposedly live in Eastern Canada. So there you go, in case you ever were wondering about that. So, of course, the full flower moon, it's going to be connected to this time of year in North America, which is springtime, and the flowers are really coming out. And I was taking a walk today, and it's really wonderful to see all of the different types of flowers in full bloom or about to be so. So the full moon in Sagittarius, where I am in the Midwest, is happening at 8:53 a.m. I suspect that in most places in the world, it is going to be on the 23rd. And I'm looking at this, and it looks really good to me. It doesn't mean that there may not be high drama, simply because any full moon can be about that. And, to be honest with you, nowadays that can happen any day. Doesn't even have to be the full moon. But I do think that I feel like for some reason, money is going to be good at this time. So, of course, because I'm reading this for the full moon, this is for the collective. This is not for individuals, but certainly you may feel this in your personal life. But yeah, and the reason I say that I think this could be happening is, first of all, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is a planet of abundance. And the interesting thing that is happening is that at this time, we're going to have Venus and Jupiter in conjunction, and they are both going to be at 29 degrees of Taurus. And Taurus is the ruler of the second house of earned income. It's all about financial resources, and the 29th degree is the critical degree. That's the final degree. So it could bring some kind of financial matter to abundance. The only thing I can think of that would affect all of us is perhaps, the stock market going crazy. But I'm not really one of those people that likes to, push the stock market, because not everybody is invested in it. And so it's not going to necessarily, benefit everyone. So hopefully it's something that everyone can feel like, yeah, this is great that this happened. But look to where 29 degrees of Taurus falls in your natal chart, and maybe you can see on a personal level where this is going to be for you, because it could be a very lucky break with Jupiter involved here. And both of those planets are considered benefic planets, Venus and Jupiter. And they're both connected to money. So, yeah. So I already knew that I was going to call this video, "The Truth Shall Set Us Free." And I probably used the same title or similar title whenever the full moon in Sagittarius was last year. And the reason for that is because I know that I'm not alone, and that there are a lot of people out there who are kind of waiting for the dominoes to begin falling. And I listen to channelers, I think, more than astrologers these days. I don't really listen to many astrologers. I'm more interested in the channeling because it's different from what I do. And I was listening to someone today, and this person was talking about this year and 2025. And one of the things she said that I found interesting was that right at the beginning of November, there was going to be some kind of an event, and she didn't want to say exactly what it was because she joked about YouTube and getting her video flagged and stuff like that. And I kind of wish she could have elaborated because the only thing I can think of that is in early November would be the US election, but that doesn't mean that that's exactly what is going to be revealed. And I know astrologically there's going to be a new moon on the 1st of November, but other than that, in Scorpio, by the way, which is a sign of secrets and the purge. So I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but I figured it might have something to do with the US election. In any case, she said that people who had believed in something, but she kind of alluded to almost like, for their job, something about they were dependent on something for their job, and then something is going to happen, and they're going to turn on these people who, I don't know what's going to happen, but whatever, the people that either made them do something or, and I'm assuming, I don't know what the time frame is of that, but the point is that I'm intrigued by this because I think all of us have been waiting and waiting, and I know I've done videos where I said, okay, so much is going to be revealed. And, whether or not that's true, I think things are coming out in dribs and drabs, and therefore it doesn't seem dramatic. And when we look back historically on these years, I think that we'll be able to pinpoint different important turning points in the whole saga. But when we're in the midst of it, it just seems like it's Groundhog's Day to some degree or another. So I will say that Sagittarius stands for truth. And one of the things that has absolutely appalled me, but also just like blown me away, like, wow, I can't believe this, is how much deception is out there. And when I looked at the Neptunian transits, I always would see like some hard angles, like from Mars to Neptune. There were things that were playing out. Jupiter, when Jupiter was in Sagittarius for a whole year, it was, squaring off to Neptune. Neptune has been in Pisces, I think, since 2012. So because of this, we've been dealing with this for over a decade now of Neptune in its own sign of Pisces. So it kind of specializes in deception, but it also specializes in spirituality. And we've seen a lot of people that are having their spiritual awakening, and not just like, oh, I believe in God, that kind of thing, but coming online, it's like being, having these downloads where they all of a sudden they know all these things. And some of them are quite young, and I watch them, I listen to them, and I'm absolutely amazed. And they'll say, oh yeah, I had my awakening in 2018. It's like only 6 years ago, and they're just talking about all these esoteric things. They didn't just sit there and study them. Now, after they had their awakening, they might have gone back and read some books, but to be able to access that level of information is beyond just the physical realm. This is something that is kind of being poured into people, and like a computer, like computer data. And then the person is able to access higher knowledge. What I see with this particular full moon and the aspects around it is that every aspect that Neptune is making is positive. Sextiles and trines. Oh, yeah. Sun sextiling Neptune, the moon trining Neptune, Venus sextiling Neptune, Jupiter sextiling Neptune, Uranus sextiling Neptune, Neptune sextiling Pluto. It's just really heartening to see this, because I feel that, first of all, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, and Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. So it has an affinity with the sign of Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. So, Jupiter and Neptune share common traits. And because the full moon is in Sagittarius, it can resonate with that Neptunian energy and give us hope. But that does not mean, nobody should construe what I'm saying to mean that something important may not come out that is about the truth. As a matter of fact, for those planets to positively aspect Neptune, it almost suggests to me that it's not going to be about the shadow side of Neptune. It's going to be the enlightened side, which is the spiritual side. And to be able to understand spiritual truths sometimes takes a bit of bitter medicine in the form of, red pills. So I know that, being a sun in Sagittarius myself, I know that Sagittarius cannot stand deception. And this is because Sagittarius rules the 9th house, and it has to do with ethics, because it's the God house and all of the things, morality, if you will. And it's immoral to be deceptive. And because all of these events are considered part of ascension, all of these things that we're seeing that are, totally crazy and totally discordant, all of these things are leading up to spiritual harmony, even though in the, moment by moment, they can feel like they're just it's just complete chaos, and it's the opposite. Like, people may think that everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and it really isn't. It's hard, it almost sounds delusional to say otherwise, but, and that applies for any truth that comes out. It can only set us free, because the deception is no longer serving anyone. Sometimes being lied to is something that a person wants to happen on a maybe a subconscious or unconscious level, because they're not ready for the truth. But because of the frequency rising on this planet, those who are meant to be here to witness this amazing moment, the most transformative moment in the history of humanity, those people who are here, who came here to witness this, they have to be aware of what is happening. They can't be asleep anymore. And this could be something that comes about, because full moons as a whole can be about secrets being revealed. And in Sagittarius, that ups the ante, because Sag stands for freedom. Truth. And truth is freedom. Being deceived is being in bondage. So, anyway, I wanted to talk about a few other things that are happening here. At the time of every full moon, the sun and moon are in opposition to one another. So we're talking about the sun being at 2 degrees of Gemini versus the moon at 2 Sag. Gemini is mundane knowledge, and Sag is the the higher mind. When I say mundane intelligence or mundane information, that is not to downplay it. It's information that allows us to function in our daily life. But sometimes people are too focused on one versus the other, because this goes for Sagittarius as well, and the higher mind. And it's interesting because in the Tarot, the Temperance card is connected to Sagittarius, as above, so below, or you could say the spiritual and the material. And striking that balance, if one person is too worldly, they completely miss out on why they're here. They can't really access any kind of ability to see the bigger picture. They're just focused on keeping their body alive. And it just is about making money so they can have a roof over their head, so they can eat, and nothing about the higher reason that they're here. And so it's kind of like sort of missing the whole point. A person who is in the higher mind may have difficulty just functioning in the 3D realm, and that can make them seriously ungrounded. And even if somebody has a lot of intuitive gifts and a lot of insight into the bigger picture, they still have to, pay their bills and do everything else. And if they can't get it together, that's going to be problematic. So this opposition, when we talk about information especially, Gemini ruling the third house can be about the media, the news, the breaking news. But if that breaking news is not coupled with an understanding of the bigger picture, the higher purpose, people can get very easily flustered. And, whatever emotion is being manipulated by people who don't really have good intentions. And that can happen in order to keep these people in a tizzy. Now, like I said, I'm seeing a lot of good things. I don't see hard angles. Well, I said I was going to say I don't see hard angles to Mars, but Mars is going to be in conjunction with Chiron. And when somebody has this in their natal chart, this can be the person who is afraid to kind of rebel. Assert themselves, not really rebel, but just assert themselves, because they might have been raised by somebody who was very brutal or very authoritarian, who tries to keep them down. So there's like that intimidation factor. So for sure, this Mars energy can be about, like right now we're seeing in the United States a lot of protesting. I do associate Mars with activism, but with Chiron, there's like that painful reminder of what happens when you do something like that. When, if you get punished for it from authority figures, or if there are people who are embedded within the people that you're protesting who are actually bad actors, and then you get sucked into it with them. But it's the same thing. It's like entrapment, or somehow the person who's trying, activism, or whatever you want to call it, the whole purpose of it is not only to draw attention to issues, but also to feel empowered when somebody feels like there's nothing they can do about it. It's kind of cathartic, I would assume. I don't consider myself an activist, but that's what I would consider. That's what I assume, is that's why people do it, because, and they also use the word agitators, people who are trying to kind of express the anger of the collective about certain policies. But, obviously, the people that are doing it don't want that kind of visual display of people protesting, so sometimes they try to squash it. And Chiron can kind of be that wounding that comes from feeling like you're disempowered in some way. And I think that this is kind of like part of that last gasp of that power struggle from the top, or, structure from the top down that was imposing things on us, because you've probably heard about New Earth and how that's going to come into play. The video that I was watching today said, hey, New Earth is here, and it's not this physical thing. It's a state of being, a state of consciousness. And although that person didn't use a word, the word that comes to mind for me is sovereignty. So even with this conjunction with Mars and Chiron, it really can be about understanding your sovereignty. A person can be put in jail and they can be free as a bird in their consciousness. And they know that nobody actually is controlling them. Even if they can they can confine their body, nobody really controls them. And so that's the kind of the thing that has to be, emphasized, because Sagittarius is all about freedom. So with the moon and Sagittarius, emotional freedom, the concept of freedom can be emotional for people. They can, feel that maybe that was violated, and they are experiencing heightened emotions surrounding this particular issue. It's important to note that at this time, Mars is in Aries, the sign that it rules. So I didn't really notice that when I was first starting this video. And this is super important, even though Mars isn't really making a lot of negative aspects. When Mars is in its own sign, it is very impulsive. It is very combative. So yeah, I kind of take back a little bit of what I said, because simply for this fact, I do feel that there could be a lot of conflict going on. And I feel that part of this is because people are, waking up exponentially. And once you wake up, it's like that saying when they say, I can't unsee this. So people can't go back to the old way of being. And in that newly awakened state, there still is a lot of confusion, but there's also a lot of manipulation going on from the outer world, from the matrix, that now is clashing with those people's consciousness. And they know that that is a lie. And it's what you do with that energy that really determines how this all plays out. And somebody that I was watching a video on said something like, all we need are 30% of the population to be awakened for it to be a tipping point, or something along those lines. I was thinking, 30%? You mean we don't have that now? I guess not. But in any case, I think that because there's a lot of positive aspects here, there's going to be an excess of emotion, though. The moon is opposing Jupiter, so people can get carried away emotionally. The moon is opposing Venus, and even in personal relationships, this can lead to excess, behaviors. Some people get very over the top in trying to be demonstrative, and then it could almost be like, yeah, I would say blowing hot and cold, because Gemini is an air sign and Sag is fire. And so even though I'm not talking about that specific opposition necessarily, I still think that these things can play out in similar ways. So, well, yeah, I mean, the opposition between the moon and Venus, for instance, it's at that 29 degree of Taurus, Venus, so it's really on the cusp with Gemini. And Gemini is detached, and even Taurus is detached. It's an earth sign. It's not really emotional per se. It's more rational. So, yeah. Well, I guess that's all I really wanted to say. The sun will be in conjunction with Venus, so that's nice. I do see so many nice angles here. I think that even if things come out that are very shocking or otherwise some sort of revelations, and there are people who are so impulsive that they just want to do something, which is Mars and Aries for sure. I think that cooler heads will prevail because in any chart there's a balance, whether I'm talking about transits or a natal chart, there's always things, there's like checks and balances usually. So some people will do that because they're not conscious. And for those of us, they have that term holding space. For those of us who have the ability to look beyond the moment and we can see what's really going on, we have the ability to kind of say, hey, I'm not playing that. I'm going to sit back and chill and let everything take place. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? And yeah, good luck to all of us. Bye.